and it's a trend that seems to be well received by funders. Reasons to give. Why? Yes, sir.
Sorry, if I could just take a step back to the last thought. On the founder point of view, on the funder point of view, what is your perspective on when you are going to be able to reestablish the funding levels? I know that most foundations do it on a historical average. How much you give, that 5% is going to be taken from a historical average. Some do a rolling every 4 quarters, some do every 3 years. What is your timeline, say at the Parker Foundation, for when you think 2007 giving, that level is going to be picked back up?
I'd be on CNN and every place else I could predict that one. You know, the pension board, boy, would I love the answer to that one. That would relieve a lot of grief in the city of San Diego if I could pick that one. But I think, you know, again, foundations and any organization has to have just good investment policies, and the markets have to dictate that, not much of our decision making. Yes, sir.
One other question on this, since you said this is generally what you've observed. Is this, I've heard these statements, particularly from foundations, national foundations, local foundations, not quite as often from individual donors, and you noted that individual donors are the largest sector of resource for the nonprofit world. So I'm curious to know, in your experience, are there donors at a certain level that seem to be thinking this way, others that seem to be sort of still attached to their favorite charity? How's that evolving?
Great question. The question is, does this apply to individual donors? And I would say, and I don't have any data to support this, but I would say that the more sophisticated and the larger the donor, the more likelihood these things are going to resonate with that donor. The smaller donors are going to be really cause motivated, and who's asking for the money? Is it a friend or colleague? And we're going to get into that. Okay, reasons people give. Personal experience. I saw it on the news. I read it in the paper. I heard it from a friend, this story of this transformation that took place about this abused child or this person who was incarcerated who's turned their life around. I was taught to do it. My family believed in giving. And then someone I know asked me to give. Religious beliefs. God wants me to share, and that resonates with a lot of people. 50% of that $307 billion in 2008 was through religious organizations. Now, it might have gone to a lot of social causes, but it went through a religious organization. To make a difference. I want to feel like I can change someone's life. I feel fortunate and or guilty, and I need to give back. And I want to take a stand on an issue and put my stake in the ground. That's very important. And then there are folks, personal recognition. They want to be part of a membership group. They want to associate with a certain crowd. They want their name on a building to demonstrate that they've given back and to encourage others. I think that's another motivation for naming rights for people. And they want to have a good image out in the community for not only themselves, but certainly in the corporate world. There's a marketing component here. I mean, let's make sure we understand that. Again, this is a little bit of a summary of some of my thoughts. First of all, to do consistent, long-term, and larger giving, got to have a passion for the cause. If someone I respect asks me to give, people give to people. So I know we have a lot of board members here today, and that's an important part of your role on the board. People give to people. So your sphere of influence is going to be very important to your organization. Does the gift produce a social return on investment? What's the impact in the community? Would I ask others to support the organization? I think that's critically important. And do I respect the board and the staff that's involved in the job that they're doing. Okay, let's talk, this is a great summary. This came from a study that was funded by the San Diego Community Foundation. Media coverage, opinions of friends and colleagues, and an organization's website were the leading sources of information consulted prior to making a financial decision. So I think that speaks for itself, and so really take a look at your website. I think, you know, in this world today, the website is, they want to see 990s and financial information and who's on the board, what are the real life stories and real life impact of the organization. Those are all important components. Okay, we're going to talk a little bit about sources of funds and revenue. We talked about board, trustees, advisory board. When I use the term advisory board, I'm usually referring to a group who says, listen, I really love your organization and I want to help out and I can volunteer from time to time, but I can't be a regular board member. So I'll be affiliated with your group through an advisory position. Call me if you have a problem. I'll be happy to help, and I'll step up, but I can't be at monthly board meetings and that type of thing. So the first thing that I think is very important, and I'm sure that Joyce will get into this in the section on board development, which is the last session today, and she does a wonderful job. Everybody does on these things, but Joyce really has tremendous experience in this area, and I encourage you to really look at that because that's a key component in this whole process. But when you're recruiting, just make sure that the organization has clear expectations of what you want from a board member, because that's going to do two things. Number one, it's going to save you a lot of time and energy to make sure you get the right person, and then when that right person comes on board, they already know what the expectations are, so they're going to get up that learning curve much, much quicker. And I'm talking about as it relates to development. There are lots of other fiduciary responsibilities and things like that you probably have to share, but as it relates to development, you know, what is your get or give policy, or do you even have one? In San Diego, I've seen many organizations that don't even have a get or give policy. Some are as low as $100, and some, I think the highest one I've seen is $10,000. Well, you know, that's going to rule some folks out. And then do you have a carve-out on that for your organization? You might need someone, you know, we always look at time, treasury, or talent. So maybe you have someone who's in a profession and you need that expertise on your board, so, you know, they can pass on the get or give policy. So that needs to be thought through. But I think it's very important to share this up front. Let them know that you're expecting referrals, that you do want them, where it's appropriate, to please open up their Rolodex, because if they're passionate about the organization, they're naturally going to want to do that. So it's important to look at that. Do you want them to participate in prospect and donor meetings? If you're making a presentation to a new prospect, I think it's very powerful to have a board member there because they're a volunteer. They're there because they believe in the organization and they can help the process. They don't have to drive the process, but they at least participate. So do you want them to do that? Because some board members are scared to death of making those kinds of calls. Site visits. My main contact with the Parker Foundation was sitting across the table asking them for money as part of a site visit they made to an organization that I was on the board on. And now it's on the